Hey, we are live from Camelford. Let's hope this doesn't have too much of a lag on it. Welcome, everyone. I am going to do some transit talk. Welcome to Venus in Cancer. As we start off Cancer season, she's welcoming us in. One of the most accurate things I've heard so far about this season of Venus, this 27 or 28 days that she'll be in Cancer, not very long at all, she speeds right through, is to remind us that as with anything in Cancer, especially Cancer season itself, when Venus is there, we are emotionally reacting. We are intuitively reacting. We are psychically reacting. We are moon reacting. So when there is a Cancer season, when we're in Cancer season, every year the sun goes through here and Mercury follows, and every other year I think Venus and Mars go through, or there and about. And this year we're having them all. We just had like literally Mars just leaving, which is good. Like he's at the end, and we've had some steamy water. Emotionally, or people have been able to be reactive to their emotional psychic situations because Mars has been through for the last, I should look that up. I know you guys are like, oh, you should write down these dates beforehand, but whatever, nobody's here. It's just me and cyberspace right now, but I will save this for everybody after. So Mars was actually the first planet to come through this year, to come through Cancer before the Sun and Mercury come in, and Venus is right behind him. Venus is entering today. And like I said, whatever is happening in Cancer means that the moon is in much more control of the sky. And especially considering we're in between eclipses right now. I heard a really beautiful theory. I think it was Hindu astrology, Vedic text, but I'm not 100% sure where I get the story from, but it translates to my mind, and it helps me when I think about eclipse season. This is where the sun and the moon are in actual competition, because during a lunar eclipse, the moon looks like a sun. Like it looks like a sun, especially at moonrise and sunrise. You really get to see the power, the difference between regular moon and an eclipse moon. And so it makes the sun insecure. It makes the sun act like a moon. And that's why eclipses are so are considered so auspicious. That's the wrong word. Auspicious means good. They're suspicious, is because of this. Hey, I don't know who's here, but welcome to the chat. I'm just talking about the Cancer season. We have had Venus move in and Mars is moving out, but for a little minute, we are having them both in the same sign. So we are going to be emotionally reactive when it comes to things that are happening with transits of your personal moon. So knowing your own personal astrology is really important, obviously, but it starts with the moon placement. The moon is actually easier in Hindu astrology. The moon has its own chart. Like the way that the first house has a chart, you also read a moon's chart. It's just as important to have them side by side. I know there's an actual name for it, but I'm not going to try to slaughter the language. That's not my jam. I just learn it and absorb it. I'm not the teacher of Hindu astrology. I just press it along and use it myself for my studies, and to help my clients with. Okay, so let's look into this summer, because it's this summer. We're here. It's June. We made it. For my Australian side friends, I'm not sure if you're going to see this yet. You'll probably be up soon, actually. And for you guys, I guess you're coming into fall and winter, which is interesting. Either way, what we are experiencing as a world on a global level is happening to us in many different ways that we haven't seen before, that astrologers were expecting, but also other stuff that astronomers have been busy looking at. Well, we're busy, astrologers, paying attention and theorizing the new asteroids and ancient aspects between ancient planets. These guys are watching the sun acting like a binary star or something. Like this thing is going off. Like our sun is having some solar storms we haven't experienced in forever. A lot of people are complaining about headaches and sinus stuff and sicknesses and stuff. And like, we're due for an extinction. Like our star is really old and it's acting up. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. So when we're having an eclipse season which always happens, you know, every year they always go through a cycle, but this year is especially more important because while the moon is acting like a sun, literally getting so much attention, and all the planets are moving into the sign of the moon, Cancer. We're like tropics of Cancer, and eventually once it gets into late Cancer, it will be in both tropical and sidereal, and that's when we're in true Cancer season. I digress. As we move into the early stars of Cancer, we are really starting to experience this jealousy of the sun. The sun is not acting the way it normally does. It's not being stoic. It's not being providing. It's not being just radiant. It's being more like Mars. It's being explosive. It's almost being like when I think of the Algol star, which has recently been in transit a lot, and the planets has moved across it. So the end of Taurus, 26 or 27 degrees of Taurus. The Algol star is a red blinking star on the bull's. Is it the horn? I think it's the horn. Don't quote me. I have to get my constellation book out. But Algol is a red blinking star. The reason I bring this up is because the reason we look at it and see it as like a special star in the first place is because it was comparable to Mars. It was called like a little Mars by ancient astrologers. And I believe that's kind of what our sun is doing right now. It's acting out and it's changing color and it's getting brighter, it's getting redder, it's having all these super storms that astronomers are paying really close attention to. And during an eclipse season, while we're so close to Cancer season with the planets moving into Cancer, that's something that creates a complete change on what the sun would normally provide. So now we're having the moon being really given a lot more responsibility. But the moon is, even if it's acting like the sun because the sun is acting out, it's still a reflector. It will still always be a receiver. It is a luminary, but it does not have its own light. It is reflecting light. It is a mirror. So never forget that was in eclipse season, no matter what we're looking at on that spectrum. Okay, so like I said, we talked about Venus moving in. Venus will not be in Cancer for very long. And while this happens, it's not going to happen very long because Mercury is going to be like doing its retrograde thing for the next couple of weeks, but eventually Mercury will move in here too. But at this very moment, Mercury and Venus are very, very close together. So they're kind of like two teenage kids working it out, you know, like there's like the energy of Mercury, which is honestly, Mercury has always been it's a slim child energy, whether male or female. It's kind of a non-binary energy, always knowing the information, always spreading the messages. Gossip is a really big thing when we deal with Mercury and Venus. Also being overly positive about movement and and it's not a bad thing with Mercury going retrograde that we have this connection with Venus right at the end of Gemini before she dips into these new stars of Cancer, because I feel like they made an informational exchange. You know, they sit together in these stars, and then he goes this way, and then she goes that way, and he goes back deep into the stars that they've both already been through. So I feel like whatever they came, whatever stars they're sitting on the 24th, 25th degrees, this is most important. And it's also on, I think it's the 6th of June, we have another transit where everybody from, even Mars will be on the 28th. I want to say the moon will be at like 28 degrees and of Aries, and then we have Pluto at 26 Cap. Hold on, I have it right here. Let me see. So Venus will be not in this one at all, but Mars and Pluto, and even Neptune is still in that loose sextile with, as it has been for decades, with Pluto for this. And I really do think, because that's a T-square with Moon, Mars, and Pluto at the last degrees. And I really feel like this conversation piece, because she'll just be out of there. She will have just moved within 10 degrees. She'll be at 9 degrees at that point, and we're leading up to the second eclipse. There will be a very big shift on the archaic degrees for people in the cardinal signs. It will be a very big triggering moment. There may be a separation, there may be a cut, there may be a whatever it is. It's a resistance and a aggressive power shift, because we have Moon, emotional reaction, being linked up with handling the stars where Venus is. So like there's hope, there's want, there's like the emotional pull and the reactive response to everything is going to be in a positive manner, which is great. But there will be a power exchange. There will be when Mars and the Moon and Pluto gets involved, we have a severing surgically, which needs to be done. I mean, Mercury's been going through his own stars, and he's loosely involved in this. So that T-square will be quite harsh. Okay, so one more transit I want to get into is when Mars moves into Leo. So this is after the eclipse, and I have already done a video on the eclipse. If you want to check that out, feel free to look at my other videos. There's a live there where I talked about it. And this is post-eclipse on the 12th, when Mars moves into Leo. Mars is very comfortable in these stars. Historically, we've seen anytime Mars moves into a fire sign, there is a tropical fire sign, there is a shift in the way that he behaves. So instead of being ignited by our own motivations and our animal instinct, we now have a relation to the sun. We now have ownership and rulership to the sun. So there is a radiance, and there is a ability to provide endurance and energy directly from a personal growth standpoint when you get Mars into Leo. Very motivated, and it does make, after this T-square with the Moon and Pluto, I feel like this is going to be the eventual shift. So like post the breakup, quit of job, of whatever that's coming, this tower moment that has definitely been building for a lot of people, whatever this happens, when it shifts by the 12th, there will be new hope and new information on old things that we knew about. Because if we look at it, Mercury's going retrograde, so we have to look back to around April 28th. There would have been information or like a situation that will be revisited with new information, and you can take kind of like a rewind and go back and do it again and do it a little differently. And when you do that, you see this new dynamic develop. And like I said, with Mars moving into Leo shortly after, we do have this new vibrancy to push for the best and the best outcome, with true hope of personal growth. Like, not in an egotistical way either. Like, everybody's starting to understand, like, if you do you and everybody's doing their own, we'll move up as like a generational thing. Like, we just have to have, you got to do your own part, right? Jupiter is still going forward for this entire thing. So manifesting growth in a general is going to be on a spiritual level first. Always, you've got to make it up in your mind, play it out in your mind, visualize it, paint it, draw it, write it, whatever it is, get it out and spell it out of your body, out of your cells, out of your energy, and onto physical manifestation. And the universe will be able to pick that up with you while you're working towards your goals. The universe will start receiving. I don't think there's too much more I want to go into on this talk. On the next talk, I will start talking about the retrogrades that are coming, with Jupiter and eventually Neptune going retrograde, but that's more positive talk. So here's my big warning, okay? So like again, on the 6th, it's going to be tight. There's going to be a shift, a power dynamic, a forced situation, whether that, and that could even be on a government scale. We could be told that there's certain cutbacks or certain uh, rules implemented that feel like a power of dominance coming down from above. Not unlikely, not unlikely at all. This could also be a retaliation as well. I'm just saying June 6th is dark day. Okay, so just stay with your positivity and have faith that whatever crumbles will leave space for you to build something new, something bigger. Okay. All right. Anyways, I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for sharing with me. And I'll be posting this live. If you have any questions or you'd like to get a free reading from me, always feel free to DM me personally. I am a Canadian astrologer and personal business owner, and I would love to work with you. Thanks so much. Bye.